Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Lots to share with you tonight. Why the Atlantic magazine is terrified of Donald Trump. Plus, Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank celebrity, says he's a vampire. Dubai, playground of the rich during COP28, the climate change summit. Kevin O'Leary was there. We'll tell you why. In addition to that, we'll update the situation with the Israel-Hamas war, bring you up to date. Also tied into what we were just talking about, stem cell therapy. We'll touch on that tonight. And what else is there? Just a lot of that stuff, a lot of cryptocurrency, what the U.S. is going to do to respond to that Houthi missile attack on those ships in the Red Sea. All that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News Channel. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And here I am. I'm back. Where should we begin tonight? I should also say that we're going to, and we might as well start with this. The ex-U.S. ambassador, Manuel Rocha, 73 years old, arrested, charged by the FBI. Accused of being a spy for Cuba. Isn't that interesting? And timely, given that we've been talking about foreign agents, corrupt politicians being placed in positions of trust and influence within our systems in Canada and the United States. Over the past couple of days, we've been talking about that. And now the FBI making an arrest. If you'll give me just a moment, something's going on here. And I'm being distracted. Give me just a moment. I'm just going to run a little promo. I'll be right back. I need just a moment.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Sorry about that, folks. Everything is A-okay. So yeah, let me just bring this back up to speed here. So, former U.S. diplomat to Bolivia. He was arrested on Friday. Manuel Rocha. And it's alleged that beginning as early as 1981 and continuing through to present day today, Victor Manuel Rocha, who is a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Cuba, currently living in Miami, it's alleged that he was spying for Cuba while working in the United States, referring to the U.S. as the enemy and supporting Cuba's intelligence gathering missions. He was approached by an undercover FBI agent, and they have what they think are the goods on this guy. So they've dragged him into court after being arrested and working with unnamed conspirators inside Cuba's intelligence community. Rocha is accused of this. They say he, in the FBI's words, agreed to act and did act as a clandestine agent of the Cuban government. So these charges against Rocha come almost a year after another Cuban spy was freed from prison after more than 20 years in prison. Ana Montes, a former analyst for the Defense Intelligence Agency, apparently spied for Cuba for 17 years. He revealed the identities of United States undercover intelligence officers and its collection capabilities. It was arrested back in 2001. So here's a picture of Rocha, well, right here. And of course, this all has to be proven in court. And that's what he looks like. That's the man. That's a photograph released by the FBI tonight. So we will be following that story as well. Okay. Sorry, just a lot of stuff opened up here. The United States is trying to decide what appropriate action will be taken in response to that Houthi missile attack in the Red Sea. Just a short time ago, Jake Sullivan at the White House said the U.S. is consulting with allies. He says that they've made it clear that the entire world needs to step up together, not the U.S. alone, but all of us working together to deal with this emerging challenge that the Houthis present, backed by Iran. We're going to take appropriate action in consultation with others, and we'll do so at a time and place of our choosing, he says. So we have a clip of Jake Sullivan here. Here we go. Oh, hang on, I don't have it. Kind of disjointed here tonight, but I can give you this. Well, anyway, it's okay. We'll just move on. You've got the idea on that. So we may come back to that later. Also today in the House of Commons in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, fiery exchange leader of the Conservatives, over the housing crisis in Canada being, of course, placed under even greater strain because of immigration. And this coming at a time when Canada is poised to take an additional 500,000 approximately Palestinian refugees. Here's what happened in the House today.
Questions, question orale, the honorable leader of the official opposition.
Mr. Speaker, for the first time in 60 years, rent is rising faster than salaries. That's according to the Bank of Montreal. After 8 years of this Prime Minister, rent has doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, and down payments have doubled too. Will the Prime Minister finally watch my documentary? It's an unprecedented, very striking, common sense documentary. And will the Prime Minister come up with a common sense plan to bring down grocery prices and build homes that people can afford and can buy?
Mr. Speaker, it's a shame that the honourable member doesn't put as much energy into generating housing policies as he does to generating housing videos. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is when I actually look at the measures he's putting forward, including in the video, they're going to result in fewer homes being constructed than we are already on pace to build. He plans to put the GST back on some home construction. He plans to cut funding for cities who are trying to build more housing, and he plans for Canada to get out of the home building game altogether. Mr. Speaker, we will make the investments necessary to build more homes and not adopt the strategy to cut home funding like the Conservatives would.
The honorable leader of the official opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he clearly didn't watch my common sense documentary, which is being widely acclaimed by all. If he had, he would know the facts. Our common sense plan takes the GST off for apartments that are affordable, below average cost. He wants to take it off just for $10 million penthouses. We want to take the bureaucracy out of the picture so home builders can build. He's got a $4 billion fund that, according to the city of Halifax, is funding more bureaucratic gatekeepers. So why won't he watch the documentary, follow the common sense plan to get rid of the taxes and the bureaucracy and build more homes?
The honorable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, it's fascinating. For him, it's about how many people are going to watch his Twitter videos. For me, it's about how many people are going to have a roof over their head. Hear, hear. The right path forward is going to have Canada make investments in home building, not cuts to home builders. The right investment will reduce taxes on the construction of homes, not put taxes on them. Mr. Speaker, the right path forward will not repeat the mistakes of the past by cutting funding for affordable housing for 30 years, as that honourable member pledges to do. We will make the investments. We will not accept that cuts are the right approach.
The honorable leader of the official opposition.
But here's the reality. People don't have roofs over their head. After 8 years of this Prime Minister and his housing minister of photo ops and media puff pieces, the rent has doubled. Mortgage payments have doubled. Down payments have doubled. In his own home province, in Halifax, they now have 30 homeless encampments. 9 out of 10 young people say they will never be able to afford a home. And what have they done? Create a $4 billion housing accelerator that 2 years later hasn't completed a single solitary house. Why won't they get rid of the bureaucracy and the taxes so that we can bring homes Canadians can afford?
The honorable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, the irony when I take criticisms about photo ops from that member is shocking, because he continues to use his opportunities to travel around the country on the government's dime to take pictures in front of projects that our government funded. The reality is the one that he is talking about has secured agreements that will change the way that cities are built, not just in Halifax, but in Moncton, Kitchener, Kelowna, Calgary, Vaughan, Brampton, Richmond Hill, London, Hamilton, the province of Quebec, and I will continue the more time he
The honorable leader of the official opposition.
You know, all those homes and all those cities that he's talking about, they're all open concept. They have no walls, they have no windows, they have no roofs, they have no basements, no kitchens, no bathrooms. In fact, Mr. Speaker, other than that, they're the best homes you can imagine, and you'll have to imagine them because after 8 years, they still don't exist. So, instead of pouring billions of dollars into local government gatekeepers who block construction, why won't he follow my common sense plan to require cities boost housing construction by 15% a year or lose their money unless they beat the target and get a building bonus? Common sense.
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member's argument falls apart when you come to understand he ignores the good work that has been done since the National Housing Strategy was adopted in 2017. There are hundreds of thousands of homes that exist today that have been built or retrofitted as a direct result of government supports that have put them in place. Mr. Speaker, when you actually look at what the honourable member's policy will do, it will raise taxes on middle-class home construction. It will cut funding to cities who desperately need the infrastructure so they can build more homes, and he will remove support for affordable housing altogether, which is a cardinal sin we cannot repeat after a 30-year history where we should have learned those lessons.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
A cardinal sin. It's time for that member to make a confession that since 2017, when they brought in this program, housing costs have doubled. The rent has doubled. Mortgage payments have doubled. They need a down payment, have all doubled. My common sense plan, which is in a 15-minute documentary he can watch between photo ops while he's being chauffeured around, would ensure that cities have to permit 15% more homes in order to keep their funding. It would take taxes off construction, including carbon taxes off of building materials, and it would require CMHC bureaucrats quickly approve financing or lose their bonuses and get fired. This is a common sense plan. Why won't he get working to implement it?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
I'm fond of the honourable member's soliloquies on biblical passages, Mr. Speaker. Somebody who read scripture in church growing up, and if there's one lesson I took, it's that we all have a responsibility to help the vulnerable members of our community. The reality is we have been investing since 2017 to put money in place that's actually going to support people who do not have a roof over their head, to build more affordable housing after 30 years of Liberal and Conservative governments not taking the issue of housing seriously. The honourable member plans to make cuts where we will make investments, and I know which path will put a roof over more of my neighbors' heads.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie, Mr.
Okay, so that's the exchange. Now, also today, the CBC in Canada announced major job cuts, another 600 jobs gone, and 200 additional jobs that will not be refilled once vacated. That also just addressed in the House of Commons. The mainstream media, under stress, cannot make things work. People are not watching, and they're no longer economically
Corporations
viable.
employees to deliver some very bad news. Things are not going well in the world of media, Mr. Speaker. Over 600 jobs are being cut. That's more or less the same news that Québécois announced at the beginning of November.
C'est
That means that our
l'intérieur
culture,
of
our
the
sense of
Parti
belonging to our
Québécois.
regions, and the quality of information will all suffer. So here is my first question. How long had the Heritage Minister been aware that these cuts were coming? The Honourable Canadian Heritage Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to start by saying that my thoughts are with all employees of CBC Radio-Canada who are currently meeting with CBC Radio-Canada management. We know that there is a significant crisis in the media sector. This is caused by the dominance of digital platforms in ad spaces, and also it's related to production costs. We reversed the Harper government's cuts to media. We reinvested in our public broadcaster, Mr. Speaker, and the Conservatives may want to block Canadians from accessing our public broadcaster, but we will continue to be here for CBC Radio-Canada, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, Catherine Tate, CEO of Radio-Canada, had her mandate extended by 18 months last June. Her mandate was extended to January 2025. She said that's 18 months to fight disinformation. Well, cutting hundreds of jobs over the next few months means cutting not disinformation, but information. Basically, Ms. Tate is not there to combat disinformation. The government extended her mandate to allow her to move forward to making these cuts. At least that's the impression we're getting. So is this what was intended when her mandate was renewed? Seriously. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I remind this House that CBC Radio-Canada is at arm's length from the government, and they manage their internal administration independently. We have always supported media and journalists, CBC Radio-Canada, and all media around the country. That's why we have developed programs to better support them, and that's why we're insisting that web giants pay their fair share here in Canada. That's why last week I was very happy to announce that Google will be contributing $100 million a year indexed to the cost of living. But now we need to do even more to support information and to support our public broadcaster, and we will continue to do so, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Well, it doesn't seem like the Liberals are there for Radio-Canada. Mr. Speaker, the holiday season is just around the corner, and people are wondering what shape they will be in when they get there as part of Operation Santa Claus. Underprivileged children are not asking for Christmas presents, but for food. According to the organizers, it's unprecedented. And that's the extent of the greed and hunger for profits of CEOs who are lining their pockets on the backs of struggling parents. Liberals are doing nothing to curb this greed. Meanwhile, the Conservatives prefer to protect the profits of big corporations. In these difficult times, why are the Liberals letting families down for the benefit of CEOs?
The
Honourable Finance Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the question. Our government understands that these are difficult times for many families in Canada. That is why our government is here. We are here through the Canada Child Benefit, for example. The Canada Child Benefit helps the least well-off families, helps many Canadian children across the country and many families. Now, as for taxes, we created a tax for financial institutions to pay for COVID investments.
Mr. Speaker, the holidays are coming up and parents are stressed about covering presents for the kids and managing the costs of a turkey dinner. Meanwhile, Canada's biggest grocery chains are making bucket loads of excess profit. While families struggle this holiday season, the Liberals are offering families a lump of coal. No solutions, just words. But the NDP is getting results. We've summoned the grocery CEOs back to testify on food prices, and Sobeys is here today. Will the minister take this opportunity to put his foot down on unchecked price gouging that's driving up food prices?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands that this is a challenging time for too many families across the country, and that is why we are there to support families. We're there to support them with the Canada Child Benefit. We're there to support them with a historic investment in early learning and childcare. 2.3 million Canadians have been lifted out of poverty thanks to support from our government. And we believe, Mr. Speaker, it is important for the biggest companies to pay their fair share. We think we need to introduce more competition into the grocery sector, and we're doing that with a historic transformation of competition law.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Same old rhetoric going around in circles. I have that clip of Jake Sullivan at the White House for you, talking about the situation in the Middle East and the attack on those ships in the Red Sea. Let's pick that up now at the White House. Here he is, Jake Sullivan.
Several rounds of intensive phone calls with partners in Israel, Egypt, Qatar, and other nations as we remain intensely engaged in a basically nonstop discussion of the developments in the region since Hamas's devastating terrorist attacks on October 7th. We're still talking about trying to find a way forward on hostages. We're talking about sustaining and expanding the humanitarian assistance, making it into Gaza. And we're talking about, of course, the status of Israel's military operation as it defends itself against a terrorist organization that has declared its intent to repeat the October 7th massacres again and again and again. And I briefed the president regularly throughout the weekend and regularly throughout the day today. On Thursday, here at the White House, and with some families joining virtually, I met with the families of Americans who are still being held hostage by Hamas. It was my second such meeting by myself. I also joined the president's meeting with the families. And I can tell you it has not gotten any easier. What these families are going through is gut-wrenching, it's heart-wrenching, and it's unimaginable, unthinkable for any of us. We continue to do everything in our power under the president's leadership and guidance with his direct involvement and participation to try to bring all of these Americans home, as well as all of the hostages, and we will not rest until we have succeeded in doing so. The president and I, along with Secretary Blinken and Director Burns, will stay in touch with our Israeli and Qatari counterparts, as well as our Egyptian counterparts, to press Hamas on this issue. Right now, Hamas is refusing to release civilian women who should have been part of the agreement. And it is that refusal by Hamas that has caused the end of the hostage agreement and therefore the end of the pause in hostilities. Since October 7th, we have also worked very hard on the humanitarian assistance front. We've announced $100 million for the Palestinian people, including through UNRWA and other UN agencies, as well as other humanitarian actors. And we call on the international community again today to fulfill the UN's flash appeal. We're working really on trying to overcome remaining obstacles to increasing and sustaining the flow of humanitarian assistance to innocent Palestinians in Gaza. Secretary Blinken made this a major focus of his trip to the region this week, and we will continue to do everything we can directly from the United States to flow assistance into the region. Last week, we had a successful airlift, U.S. airlift, of over 54,000 pounds of medical items and food aid for delivery to the civilians in Gaza. And that's the first for a number of planned deliveries that will take place over the course of the coming days. Beyond what's happening immediately in Israel and Gaza, of course, there are developments in the region more broadly. This past weekend saw 4 attacks against 3 separate commercial vessels operating in international waters in the southern Red Sea. 3 vessels that are connected to 14 different nations, which goes to show you the extent to which this is truly a source of global concern and a threat to international peace and stability. As DoD has relayed, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Carney responded to the distress calls from these ships and provided assistance. In doing so, it detected 3 UAVs at 3 different times heading in its direction, and it took action against all 3 of those UAVs. As CENTCOM reported this weekend, we cannot assess at this time whether the Carney was a target, but the Carney took prudent action in taking down those 3 UAVs. And we will continue as we go forward to consult very closely with allies and partners to determine and take all appropriate responses. We have every reason to believe that these attacks, while they were launched by the Houthis in Yemen, were fully enabled by Iran. On Ukraine, as you've all seen earlier today, OMB Director Shalanda Young sent a letter to congressional leaders, which Karine was just referencing, explaining that without congressional action, the administration will run out of resources by the end of the year to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and to provide equipment from U.S. military stocks without impacting our own military readiness. The resources Congress has provided for Ukraine and other national security needs have halted Russia's advances in Ukraine, helped Ukraine achieve significant military victories, including taking back more than 50% of the territory that Russia had previously occupied, and by revitalizing our own defense industrial base, jumpstarting and expanding production lines, and supporting good-paying jobs across the country. Now it's up to Congress. Congress has to decide whether to continue to support the fight for freedom in Ukraine as part of the 50-nation coalition that President Biden has built, or whether Congress will ignore the lessons we've learned from history and let Putin prevail. It is that simple. It is that stark a choice. And we hope that Congress, on a bipartisan basis, will make the right choice. There is no magical pot of funding available to meet this moment. As Director Young said, we're running out of money, and we are nearly out of time. Congress has to act now to take up the president's supplemental request, which advances our own national security and helps a democratic partner in Ukraine fight against Russian aggression. Finally, as Karine was just describing and talking through the achievements we've made on methane, Vice President Harris traveled this weekend to Dubai for COP28, and she delivered the advancing our efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, support adaptation, and boost climate resilience. As a result of President Biden's leadership since he took office, the United States is once again leading the world in responding in an urgent and sustained basis to the climate crisis. And with apologies for trying your patience with those opening remarks, I'd be happy.
Enough. Enough. We're going to take a break. Coming back, we'll talk about Dubai. We'll talk about COP28, and I'll give you the cold, hard truth.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, you want to talk about climate change? You want to talk about Dubai? Yes. Then let's talk about 84,000 people flying into the desert to listen to, well, guys like this. The president of the whole shebang. Listen to this.
Host is stirring tensions of a different. The UAE Sultan and the meeting's host is stirring tensions of a different kind.
Show me a roadmap for a phase out of fossil fuel that will allow for sustainable socio-economic development, unless you want to take the world back into caves.
It's hoped the summit will map out a way for the world to cap global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. UN climate scientists say that has to include phasing out fossil fuels. But the summit president, who also runs the UAE state oil company, doesn't accept that.
There is no science out there, or no scenario out there, that says that the phase out of fossil fuel is what's going to achieve 1.5.
Current state of the technology for carbon capture and direct air capture is a research project. There's been no cost reduction for 50 years.
9 days of tough negotiations ahead.
And so it continued today, and what is Canada doing? Well, our Minister of Environment and Climate Change is committing to doing much more, going beyond what has even been promised so far. Here's Stephen Guilbeault.
So today's announcement builds on past success. I'm very happy to announce the release of even more ambitious draft methane regulations for Canada's oil and gas sector, consistent with the International Energy Agency's recommendation. We're now aiming for at least 75% reduction for the oil and gas sector by 2030 in Canada. The accuracy and understanding of how much and where methane is emitted and that is reported properly is critical to achieving methane targets. To address this, the Government of Canada will also be announcing $30 million to establish a methane center of excellency to improve our understanding and reporting of methane emissions, with a focus on collaborative initiatives to support data and measurement. We know we can do this. Our approach is in step with what our neighbors in the South are doing. We're broadening the scope to include a wider set of sources, from the point the natural gas out of the ground to where it enters the pipeline that brings it to the market. We're eliminating most exclusions from the existing regulations. This means that virtually all of Canadian facilities handling natural gas will be covered. The goal is to eliminate the escape of methane during production, from venting or routine flaring. We're also establishing new performance standards for leak detection and repair, focusing on sites with the highest risk. And we're addressing problems such as blowdowns and other potential large methane releases. All this while ensuring the energy industry, both in Canada and the US, remains competitive on the world markets. That is the key. Not only can methane emissions be captured and achieved at a low cost for the oil and gas companies, but that captured methane can then be sold or used as a source of energy. We're all in this together, and I want to highlight the collaboration and ambition we're seeing from Canadian provinces and territories, as well as from Canadian oil and gas companies to tackle the methane emissions. 12 major Canadian firms have already committed to lowering their methane emissions to near zero by 2030. And as of Saturday, they've been joined by 50 oil companies representing nearly half of global production that have pledged to reach near zero methane emissions and end routine flaring in their operations by 2030. They understand the need to become among the cleanest producers in the world to compete in a decarbonizing global economy.
Okay. Why do they go to Dubai? Why do they go to the middle of the desert? Because, man, it's like a playground for the rich and famous. 84,000 people go to a climate change summit, COP28, 84,000, a record number of people. What do they go there for? Well, they go there for the weather. They go there because it's warm. They go there because it's a cutting edge, modern city just swimming in money. They go there for business opportunities. Do you really think they're all going there to save the world from climate change? No. Well, maybe some of them do. But it's all about the money, baby. It's about doing deals on vacation. And what a vacation place it is. It's like Disneyland for people who love Lamborghinis. This is a place where you go for medical tourism. This is a metaphor, a representation of the class war. This is where the politicians, the bureaucrats, the well-heeled, the ruling elites go to hang out for a week or so, to do some deals, get a little time in the sun, do a little sightseeing, engage in maybe some activities that back at home they might not, maybe shouldn't be doing. Oh, yeah, you think it's all, yeah, you thought they were all out there working, eh? Yeah, well, you wait and see. I'm going to show you, but let's first listen to what the president of COP28 had to say again today. This is all about the numbers, he says. Check it out. I got so much for you on this.
There is some confusion out there.
Saving the good stuff for last.
Misrepresentation and misinterpretation. And to address this question right, let me first introduce myself to you. I'm an engineer by background. It's the science and my respect to the science and my passion about the science, and it's about my conviction to the science that have enabled me to progress in my career. I'm an economist by background, and by combining my passion for science and my engineering background and supplementing that with business and economics skills, I was able to progress in my career. So science has been central to my own career progress. And yes, I respect the science in everything I do. And I respect and trust numbers and figures.
84,000 people went to this thing. 84,000.
Has guided my life.
It's like a climate Woodstock with money.
Fact. And I have repeatedly said in many occasions and in many different
84,000
platforms
people.
that it is the science that have guided the principles of our strategy as COP28 presidency. And I've been very crystal clear about that. And I hope that this time I am clearer in getting this message across.
Yeah.
The science says that we must get to net zero emissions by 2050, and we must reduce emissions by 43% by 2030. And that is to reduce 22 gigatons, the one I just referred to, in order for us to be able to keep 1.5 within reach.
The UAE,
And I have
Dubai, it's
been
all about
very
oil.
clear that my job and this mission is to ensure that my North Star continues to be, and that we stay laser focused on our North Star, and that is keeping 1.5 within reach.
Right.
And that will not change.
Uh-huh.
That will not change. In fact, if anything, you will only see my North Star more shining.
Of course.
Because that's how much I care about keeping focus.
Of course he does, because I'll submit this. I will submit this. It is all about the numbers. Do you know how much oil they want to come out of the ground in North America? 0. UAE, Dubai, they're in the heart of oil country, man. Their entire economy is based on oil and tourism now, as they've tried to diversify over time. 84,000 people went to this thing. But do you know how much oil those oil-producing countries in the Middle East want to come out of the ground in Canada and the United States? 0. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you get us to produce nothing when we're sitting on top of an ocean of oil in Canada and the United States? How do you do that? Fund the environmentalist movement. I'm just saying, this is just my opinion. Arab countries funneling money across the ocean to the climate activists like Stephen Guilbeault. When he was climbing the CN Tower to unfurl his Greenpeace banner and then got arrested years ago, when he was a climate activist before becoming the Minister of Climate Change and Environment. Where was his funding coming from? Anybody ever do an audit on Greenpeace or any of these environmental groups? Does anybody really know where the money comes from? And even if we did know, do we know that these financial records are direct? If you don't want oil coming out of the ground here, then then you sit over there and you say, climate change, it's a real existential threat to the entire planet. So better not produce anymore. We'll keep producing it. And their entire economy depends on it, UAE. And what a place it is. Great vacation spot if you can afford it. Fantastic vacation location. A lot of crazy stuff goes on there. Let me just show you some of the highlights. Why would people want to go to Dubai? I mean, what? It's such a tough gig if you're a politician or a bureaucrat or any kind of public official. Why would you want to go all the way to Dubai? Well, let me show you here. I'll call this up. It's a city of the future. Be sure, and it's a beautiful place. And as I said, it is just swimming in money. Check this stuff out. 15 different big attractions in Dubai. This is what our fearless leaders are going to have to put up with when they're in Dubai.
Habibi, come to Dubai. Hey guys, we're Ian and Anna, and we just spent the last 2 weeks in the incredible futuristic city of Dubai. In this video, we want to share with you our top 15 favorite things to do in this city.
If you can afford
Let's start off
it.
with number 15, Miracle Garden. This 3-time Guinness World Record breaker is filled with 150 million flowers and is the perfect place for not only flower lovers, but also children. You'll notice just how family-friendly it is when you initially walk in and are greeted by 2 immaculate shrub stallions that serve as a gate to the rest of the majestic garden. There's endless fun things to see, including a Smurf village, a flower princess floating above her castle, and the world's biggest floral installation, which is that life-size replica of the Emirates airplane. As I'm sure you know, Dubai gets pretty hot, so we recommend coming as soon as it opens at 9 a.m. You only need to spend 1 to 2 hours to see everything you want, and if you have some extra time, you can head over to the world's largest butterfly garden that holds 15,000 butterflies. Coming up is number 14, Dubai Mall.
The Dubai Mall is the largest mall in the world and is roughly the size of 200 football fields. It has more than 1,200 stores with every brand you could possibly think of and around 200 restaurants. You could definitely fill up an entire day here, especially because it's connected to the Burj Khalifa, and right outside its doors is the famous water show. Other mind-blowing things you could find here is an Olympic-sized ice skating rink, the world's largest indoor aquarium, and even a 150-million-year-old dinosaur, which was discovered in Wyoming. If you're not a fan of crowds, avoid this area at all costs because it gets around 75 million visitors a year and can feel quite claustrophobic. Next up is number 14, the iconic Burj Khalifa.
Since 2009, the Burj Khalifa has been the tallest building in the world. At 828 meters high, it's equivalent to the size of 3 Eiffel Towers or 2 Empire State Buildings. It cost a whopping $1.5 billion to complete this structure. There's 160 floors, and you can ride all the way to 154 to visit the highest outdoor observation deck in the world. Don't worry, there's glass surrounding it so you won't fall off. I don't think people realize just how big this building is. If you're standing at its base, you have to crank your head all the way back just to see the tip of it. Ian, why don't you turn it sideways so I can see how it doesn't even fit in the frame.
Oh my gosh.
The building's exterior contains 26,000 glass panels, and I know what you're thinking. How do they keep it so clean? Well, they hire 120 glass cleaners, and it takes them 3 months to clean the entire building. And of course, while you're there, just outside the Burj Khalifa, you can see the world's largest water show. The Dubai Fountain was designed by a California-based company, also responsible for the creation of the Bellagio fountains in Las Vegas. It was so cool taking in the water show from above on the observation deck and then seeing it again from the ground floor. The fountains dance every 30 minutes starting at 6 p.m. The Burj lights up in the background and is truly a sight to see. Apparently, this spot is also very cool at New Year's when there are fireworks shooting from the building combined with a truly sensational water show. Next, we have number 12, Museum of the Future.
This has to be one of the coolest buildings we've ever seen, and it makes sense because its nickname is the most beautiful building on Earth. The symbolism behind it, though, makes it even more impressive. The building's circular form represents humanity, the green mound it sits on represents the Earth, and the void in the middle represents our unknown future. Wrapping the outside of the windows are 3 quotes from Sheikh Mohammed, who is the Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai. And these quotes in Arabic are his thoughts and vision for the city's future. The Museum of the Future officially opened to the public in 2022, so it's brand new, and that's why we couldn't even get a ticket to enter. We highly recommend you book online before arriving, so we'll make sure to put a link in the description below. Inside, you can expect to see the future of space travel, robots, innovation, and sustainability. Even if you can't enter the museum, you can still check out the lobby, which looks like you're walking into the future. It's an all-white room with spiral staircases, mesmerizing elevators, and a ceiling that glows up with more Arabic quotes. Personally, the best time to visit is at sunset, and when it gets dark, this entire structure glows in the night with the city shining all around it. Up next is number 11, the unbelievable Palm Jumeirah.
There are 3 man-made islands off the coast of Dubai, but the biggest and most famous is the Palm Jumeirah. This palm tree-shaped island stretches 5 kilometers into the Arabian Gulf, and it's so massive that you can see it from space. To create this, they blasted 7 million tons of rock from a nearby mountain and dug up sand below the Persian Gulf. It cost $12 billion and took
environmental study
6
done
years
on
to
that
build.
before they
The
did
famous Atlantis stands at the front of the Palm, and here you can have a full day of fun at the water park, which broke the world record for most water.
Could you imagine trying to build something like that today in Canada? Or we're going to blow up a half a mountain and then scoop it all out of the ocean and then build a thing there. Oh my God, you'd never be able to get the permits. They would be blocked. You'd have 20 different legal challenges on environmental fronts alone.
Slides. We actually did spend a day here and it was an absolute blast. I think if you have kids, this is the perfect spot to get some of their energy out. Definitely visit the Tower of Neptune first to go on the Leap of Faith, Atlantis' most famous water slide. If you're an adrenaline junkie and want to go skydiving, I don't know of many other places that you can skydive with a view like this one. This is actually the only way to see the Palm from above other than taking a helicopter ride. Let us know in the comments below if you've gone skydiving in Dubai, because we would love to hear your opinion. Let's move on to number 10, rooftop bars and pools.
Dubai is all about that go big or go home mentality, and they definitely didn't skimp out on rooftop pools and bars. Of course, Dubai holds 2 more records. First, it has the world's highest infinity pool, and second, it has the world's highest 360-degree infinity pool called Aura Sky Pool. The one we really wanted to visit was the Aura Sky Pool, but of course it was booked out for 2 weeks when we were there, so please make sure to book reservations far in advance. If you like to drink alcohol with city views, we have heard great things about Level 43 Sky Lounge, which is located on the roof of the Sheraton Hotel. This Sky Lounge overlooks Sheikh Zayed Highway, which is this famous road that connects all 7 Emirates in the UAE. It has an astounding 14 lanes, and during your time in Dubai, you will definitely spot supercars flying down this highway. Now on to number 9, the Dubai frame.
To be completely honest with you guys, at first I thought the concept of a gold-plated...
That's right. It's just a wash in money there, folks. That is the point. Okay, are you getting the picture? Okay, are you getting the picture through their giant picture frame? This is what this place is like. In the middle of the desert. Why would they have the climate change summit in the middle of the desert in an oil-rich country that relies almost entirely on oil production for its very existence? It's just kind of like, why not host it? Why not, I don't know, why not try to resuscitate the economy in Palestine? Why don't they have their climate change summit there? And why does it take 84,000 people to have a climate change summit? 84,000 people? I thought it was all about the world leaders. I thought it was about the world leaders coming together to find solutions to the climate crisis. There's another point of view on this, you know. There is. Some people think that Dubai represents everything that's wrong with maybe even the world. Okay? Yeah, certainly everything that's wrong with society. This is from a channel called Moon, online influencer. And yeah, this is the other perspective on Dubai. And then we're going to get into Kevin O'Leary being a vampire at COP28, the star of Shark Tank. All right, check it out. Check this out.
However bad the West might get, you should never move to Dubai. Forget all the videos you see of celebrities being paid off to hype up Dubai's latest mega project.
This is why I chose to live in Dubai and not in LA. It's no longer the American dream, it's the Dubai dream.
See, after traveling to 80 countries around the world, I found that Dubai is the best place to live and work.
Deep dive Dubai, I'm about to go down. Deepest pool on earth, 200 feet deep.
Yeah, did you face slap anybody today, dude?
Behind the lit villas, the still skyscrapers, and the fake beaches, Dubai is a modern-day nightmare. A city as rock solid and steady as the sand it was built on. It's a mirage in the desert that's doomed to failure. You see, if you type in Dubai into the search bar on YouTube, you'll generally find two kinds of videos. Some call out for the hellscape it is, listing off the human rights abuses and the truckload of reasons it's an awful place to live. But the others seem to say the exact opposite. There's tons of vlogs by Instagram models bragging about how amazing, safe, and clean the city is. All the guys in Bugattis driving around, banging hoes, and paying no taxes. So which is it? Or somewhat confusingly, they're both kind of true. If you're a wealthy influencer, Dubai can seem like a paradise. I've been tempted myself. Beachfront apartments, no income taxes, and a large community of like-minded expats makes it the perfect place to set up a business and fit out your Instagram story. You can barely walk a block through the center without seeing a car dealership or a glistening mega mall. It's a place that's been designed for luxury, a playground for the rich and powerful. The one thing you can't deny is that Dubai is absolutely stuffed with money. This might imply that there's actually opportunity here, but just like everything else, it's all part of the image. Countless numbers of young Instagram models and hopeful young people move to Dubai and the UAE every year searching for their fortune. Now, of course, most of them won't make it. There's only so many likes and followers to go around, leading lots of them to turn to the infamous Dubai porta potty industry. Details are sketchy, with predatory NDAs and embarrassment to blame for the limited information. Some of it's far too sketchy to discuss on YouTube. But there's tons of examples of hopeful models getting massive offers from ruling elites for the most depraved acts you can imagine. Enticed by the offer of free flights, stays in luxury hotels, and 5-digit lump sums, models are coerced into giving up their dignity. One report talks about a perverted party at a secluded mansion, in which she was paid $50K for acting out the owner's sick desires. Another model showed off her DMs, where she was approached for presents, getting offered $7K for her trouble. For a country where anything above hand-holding can get you a jail sentence, the rumors are shocking. But suppressing these kinds of stories is key for Dubai's future plans. If they do a bad job of it, they could scare young people and their money away. In the same way, all the vapid skyscrapers and artificial islands are part of a calculated ploy to turn Dubai into the tourism capital of the world. And it's sort of working so far. Many people are seeing Dubai as the new trendy place to go on holiday, with Dubai regularly being in the top 120 most visited cities in the world. But why have the UAE spent trillions on getting what used to be a small desert town there? Obviously, the UAE and other Middle Eastern nations are entirely dependent on oil for their income. It's what made them some of the richest countries in the world. But eventually, either the oil wells would run dry or the world would stop needing what's piped out of them. So what then? Well, the UAE is building Dubai into the empty paradise it is to prepare for this. It's a race against time. They need to diversify their income enough and prepare for the inevitable. It's a pattern we've surprisingly seen before in history. Cities with no significant natural benefits elevated to the wealthiest place in the world in the space of a generation. When the Mongol Empire razed and pillaged the majority of the known world, they became the richest people on the planet. Thousands of tons of gold and gems, along with the world's best scholars, artists, craftsmen, and workers, were brought back to Karakorum, the Mongol capital. A great palace was built to display it all, and what used to be a collection of tents became a sprawling city. But it was all painfully temporary. Conquest had brought it all there, and once the empire collapsed, the city was burnt to the ground and the wealth and the people disappeared. The same example has happened numerous times in other cities. Samarkand, once the seat of the mighty Timurid Empire, is a shadow of its former self. All that remains those days are the great ruins of the crumbling palace. Great wealth and peoples gathered in a temporary boom, vanishing in a generation or two. Dubai is exactly the same, except it's even more lacking. There are no great structures or creativity that will stand the test of time. Instead, their palaces and monuments are made out of steel, concrete, and glass. If left unmaintained, they will be eaten by the desert in just a few decades. And you can understand this by having a quick look at the history of the city. Long before the skyline was dominated by vapid skyscrapers, Dubai was actually a quaint fishing village known for pearl diving and trading. Since the 19th century, Dubai had been under the British protectorate, all the way up until 1971, and the British influence in the region significantly shaped the region's political and economic systems. Like many other similar nations, such as Singapore and Hong Kong, the British laid the groundwork for Dubai's international outlook and initial infrastructure development. Because just around the time that the British were leaving the region, Dubai would discover oil, completely changing the trajectory of the UAE, and the newfound wealth that came from it was smartly invested into modernizing infrastructure, constructing new schools, hospitals, roads, and a modern...
Yes. But did you know about 90% of the workforce in Dubai, not citizens? Not citizens. No minimum wage. They're accused of some pretty terrible labor practices.
The kingdom knew that they would have to diversify the money from the oil to keep the money machine going, and this marked the inception of Dubai's transition towards becoming the place we know today. where the government would keep on investing to make sure Dubai was a hub for finance, trade, tourism, and real estate, making this desert dirt patch one of the most famous cities in the world. And this strategic diversification, coupled with an economic policy, attracted foreign investments and global talents, propelling Dubai into the international stage. Along with no taxes, Dubai is the perfect place for the rich. And as more and more money came in, Dubai's leadership would take more and more gambles, doing everything they could to stand out, building crazy architecture with no actual meaning or heritage, just to show off on the world stage, creating things like the Burj Khalifa and these artificial islands that were all part of a deliberate strategy to etch Dubai's name on the global map. These infrastructural marvels were not merely about aesthetic appeal, but they embody Dubai's ambition to transition from its humble past to a future filled with boundless possibilities. But to fuel this rapid growth in the country, they couldn't do it just by themselves. Hardly anyone lived in this region, and the foreign investors weren't going to be making the buildings. And so it quickly became clear that Dubai needed labor, and fast. And so to fuel its rapid development, Dubai would do everything it could to bring in huge swaths of migrant workers into the country. And this is where the foundations of Dubai would become very shaky. Around 90% of the population of the UAE are immigrants as well. The majority come from India, Africa, or other developing countries. Unlike Karakoram or Salman Khan's people, they weren't brought there by war. Instead, it's economic pressure and desperation that has sucked them in. Their experiences are the real Dubai, and it couldn't be any further from what the influencers are showing off.
Several investigations into Qatar stadiums revealed that employers usually house workers in private camps far from city centers, where they are forced to live in overcrowded rooms and unsanitary conditions.
That might be like a 15-minute
And at
city.
work, their lives are put at risk. Migrant workers are often given the most dangerous jobs on the site.
In many ways, the same things that bring influencers to Dubai are also what brought the millions of migrant workers: opportunity. In countries like Nepal, India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and all around the world, people hear about how they can support their families by working abroad. Agents from recruitment companies promise them good wages, accommodation, and a way to make a life for their loved ones. The first part of the exploitation comes as a large recruitment fee, often around $2,000. The workers are told this covers their visa and travel. In reality, it's simply extortion. It also keeps them in debt, a key part of the scam as it limits their options to escape. The total of illegal fees for just one security company operating in this way, G4S, amounted to millions of dollars. And
Great
that's just one
location
company.
for a
Once they
climate
arrive
summit.
in the UAE, their passports are confiscated.
A lot of
and they're
social
sent to live in
justice
dismal
there.
camps on the outskirts of the city. One Vice documentary shows a warehouse where each cramped room houses 9 people each, with only one
it's-
shower between every 5
Oh,
rooms.
my.
The wages they were promised get slashed by 2/3 in some
Stephen
cases.
Guilbeault,
Previous
he's out there
contracts
fighting
getting
for the
ripped
little
up.
guy.
And the payment of these meager salaries are often delayed or simply forgotten, leaving the workers and their families at home in even more peril.
I shouldn't be like this. Is not funny.
So they're being built
This is
by
ridiculous.
slaves.
That's not an exaggeration, yeah.
Really?
Once they find themselves out there and they realize how much they're getting paid or how much they're not getting paid, they're indebted by the time they arrive there. So it is bonded labor.
When the pandemic hit, it threw everything into disarray. The UAE made promises that companies had to provide food and shelter even if they fired their employees. Often though, this didn't really happen. In fact, lots of these common practices are still illegal under UAE law, but they're rarely enforced.
I didn't hear
Workers are
anybody
too
talking
worried
about
about
this
losing
at
what
the
little income they
COP28.
have to go to the authorities.
Didn't hear Trudeau
If they're owed
saying
money and they
anything
leave,
about it or
they
Biden.
likely won't see it again. One man described being owed 10 months of salary, vowed that he
just-
couldn't return home empty-handed to
Not
see his
even- not a
family in
mention.
need. Another needed surgery and incurred medical expenses. His employers began taking 75% of his salary to pay it off, keeping him in indentured servitude. Now, of course, the UAE and Dubai's government pushes this all into the background. Under what's called the kafala system, migrant workers' rights are meant to be upheld by the companies they're working for. As non-citizens, they're relatively unprotected by labor laws, have no minimum wage, and are left to their employers' mercy. These people who built everything that makes Dubai what it is today are forgotten and swept aside. So what have they all been working tirelessly in unbearably hot desert temperatures to create? Well, unfortunately, just like nearly everything in Dubai, it's all in service of appearances.
There's the picture
The most
frame.
recognizable landmark in Dubai has to be the Burj Khalifa. The tallest building in the world, despite having numerous problems, is probably the city's greatest achievement so far. Its construction was plagued by accusations of typical worker abuse, with allegations of laborers being paid less than £3 a day. And when it was finally completed, the sewage system supporting it wasn't nearly capable enough. It's what led to the need for scores of sewage trucks to ship it out after the system was overloaded. A viral video shows the massive queues of sewage trucks, although most weren't coming from the Burj Khalifa.
The sewage is transported away using trucks. You might be surprised that the tallest building in the world, which is a spectacle in every other way, does not cater to this serious dilemma.
A new system estimated for completion in 2025 will apparently solve this problem though. Even with these issues, Burj Khalifa is probably the best of a bad bunch of Dubai's senseless construction projects. The artificial islands, like the Palm Fronds and the Wild Islands, are far worse. The problem started with the sand. You would expect Dubai to have an endless supply of it. Other than oil, it's the only thing that Dubai always has plenty of. But desert sand couldn't be used. The grains were too large and it would just melt away into the sea. Instead, they needed a specific type of sand pulled up from the seafloor using specialist trawler ships. 94 million tons of sand were taken from just the Palm Islands, destroying the ecosystem off of the coast of Dubai. The result is 40 kilometers of new coastline, but not much else. Home to over 40 hotels and a collection of mansions for the ultra-rich, they amount to yet another playground for the rich and wealthy. Without constant replenishment and sea defenses, they'll disappear into the water. The Wild Islands are just another artificial land project, but they're in even more peril. Designed to represent different parts.
Hello,
What
everyone.
the hell? What the? Could it be any worse?
Most of them are still just piles of sand, left unfinished and uninhabitable. They're also slowly sinking into the sea, which combined with rising sea levels, means all of the artificial land exists on borrowed time. And this was supposed to be their groundbreaking project that would house the ultra-wealthy and ultra-high-class shops. And one other ridiculous project recently undertaken by Dubai is the construction of an artificial replica of the moon. The $5 billion proposal details a carbon fiber orb 200 meters across, with the usual luxury spas, hotels, and houses included within. It still isn't guaranteed to happen, but the paperwork's moving along and you can easily imagine it in Dubai. At least it may provide an alternative for billionaires taking their own pleasure cruises into space. But it's a mockery of nature, which in Dubai hasn't really found a footing. The city is sparse when it comes to actual greenery, other than the odd palm tree or water-hungry lawn. There was a project to grow and transplant 1 million desert trees to make the city a bit more palatable. Announced in 2010, 130,000 square meters of land was dedicated to growing the saplings into actual trees, but halfway through the project, it all fell apart. Another project this time for a $5 billion mega mall got in the way. The land, the energy, and the water needed to grow were requisitioned. Workers were barred from the site, and the project was all but abandoned. By 2020, over 80% of the trees had died in the desert heat, without any water. The plan for the mall that was meant to replace them was then also abandoned, a testament to the instant gratification culture of Dubai and the sheer wastefulness that permeates the city.
Well, nice
All of this is
cars,
kept
though.
in place by
Nice
authoritarian
cars.
laws designed to safeguard the rich and powerful. Punishments are often draconian. One British national was recently slapped with a 25-year sentence for having just a few bottles of CBD oil in his car, a non-psychoactive substance. Another woman was recently released after 9 months after she allegedly touched the arm of an airport security official. The police can arrest you on trumped-up charges and the courts can sentence you to decades for the smallest of crimes. It leads to a palpable fear and respect of the authorities, which is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's part of what makes Dubai so safe. It's why people like Andrew Tate and all these other influencers love this place. They can have their Rolexes on the beach and be fine, which is great, as many people describe accidentally leaving their bag in public and coming back hours later to find it untouched, as the punishments for theft are so harsh that people just will never risk it. And living somewhere with useless and corrupt authorities can make this seem like a dream come true. But of course, it's mostly surface level. Petty crimes are punished harshly, but institutional abuse and systemic schemes of exploitation are ignored. Just like everything else, it makes it better for sensible tourists and elites, but much worse for the migrant worker population. But it doesn't have to be this way. You just need to look at Singapore, a city that's almost identical to Dubai in its origins, and yet they both operate so differently, with a vastly different culture. You see, these two cities both came from humble origins, small little fishing areas to huge modern urban centers. So how come today these two cities are so different culturally and fundamentally? Well, it's not just religion. You see, Singapore is widely known now as the Garden City, due to its relentless pursuit of integrating urban growth with environmental stewardship. It's been meticulously urban planned, with well-orchestrated public transportation networks, abundant greenery, and innovative land use, demonstrating the leadership's long-term vision for sustainable growth in the city. On the contrary, Dubai's leadership focuses on glossy monuments to materialism, these giant hollow skyscrapers, bizarre island projects, and luxury-at-all-cost hotels completely overshadows the human need to be in nature, and also what they're doing to nature. Projects like their artificial islands completely destroy the marine ecosystems, and far from being sustainable long-term. But it's not
It's
just the
Vegas
environmental
on
concerns
steroids.
that divides these two cities. The real difference here is how Singapore and Dubai both treat their migrant workers. You
With
see,
their
both
own
of them rely on immigrant
version of
labor.
Wall
Almost
Street.
all their population is migrants. And yet Singapore's labor policies are so much different to Dubai's. They promote fair employment practices, ensure competitive wages, and foster a very...
Okay, well, we don't need to hear about Singapore. Okay, so that's another point of view. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. No wonder they want to go. They can go see the fish tank, and they can go see the big, the big water fountain in the desert, and go shopping at the super mega mall, and go on the big building, and then go way up in the elevator, and have parties on the beach and on the top floor of the skyscrapers. Tough job, Stephen Guilbeault. So it's really rough, eh? And while you're there, you can wheel and you can deal with the Lamborghini, Ferrari jet setters, make some business deals. 84,000 people went. Of those 84,000 people, how many are really there dealing with climate change? Is it maybe like a big party? They're there for a good time, if not a long time. And you know who went? Who went? Kevin O'Leary. Yes, he did. Why? Why would a rich guy like Kevin O'Leary go all the way to Dubai for COP28? A guy who has a real interest in and investments in oil. Yeah, this is a guy who has come out recently and has been talking about investments in oil in places like Dakota. Isn't that interesting? His name's come up a few times in the last month or so. I've heard his name being thrown around. And there he was in Dubai. I've always liked Kevin O'Leary. Ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, right? He dropped out. He was the front runner for a while, but he dropped out of the race. This was quite some time ago, mind you. But there he goes to Dubai. Let me find you this clip, and I'm going to show you what he was up to. He went there to do some deals. He went there to also partake in some medical tourism. What am I talking about? I'm talking about stem cell therapy. You ever hear of that? Now, I don't want to conflate this in any way with those old protocols of the elders of Zion, conspiracy extensions about things like, I don't know, blood libel or anything. Or talking about, I know you conspiracy theorists out there, you're gonna connect some dots here and start saying, the elites, they're going to their parties and there's satanic things and all of this, and it's all about the children and the adrenochrome. No. See, there's the exaggerations and then there's the reality. And the reality is today that the elites do go on medical vacations. If you have the bucks, you can treat yourself to stem cell therapy. You know what stem cells are, right? You know where they come from? Come from a variety of places. They can come from there's adult stem cells that they can take from adult human tissue, or they can get stem cells from aborted fetuses, or from the placentas of aborted fetuses or babies. They can come from a variety of places. Now, I'm not exactly sure where they're sourcing the stem cells for what you're about to see here, but Kevin O'Leary went over to Dubai and partook in some stem cell therapy, and then put this video up right here. There he is. There's the man of the hour, Kevin O'Leary, who proudly announces with the IV in his arm that he is a vampire.
I've got a story for you. Ready for this? Now, as you know, I come to the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, quite often. Big believer in the economy here, the opportunity. But a lot of people don't know about this country is how advanced the medical system is and how much money has been put into research, cutting edge labs. Last time I was here a couple of years ago, I actually went to a company called G42 and had my entire DNA sequenced, as every citizen here gets for free by the government. Changed what I ate, the supplements I took, a lot of information provided there. Now, when you come here, some of the most advanced procedures are available because this country really focuses on health and healthcare. What's unique about their policy is they want to be preventive. They don't want to spend billions after you're sick. They want to keep you from getting sick.
Right.
That's why right now, look at this intravenous in my arm.
Look at that. Brave guy.
Scary. Now, what is that? Every time I come here, I want to check in and do as much as I can towards longevity and take advantage of these amazing systems and services. I'm at a brand new lab sports center for medicine called Lifespan. And with me is Dr. Sammy. Hi, doctor.
Hi. My name is Dr. Sammy Masri, sports medicine physician here at Lifespan Sports Medicine. We have Kevin here. He's receiving the exosomes IV procedure today. The exosomes will help him with rejuvenation and help him reduce the inflammation in his blood overall as well, and his body, vital organs. It's a procedure that we do here. We do it either IV or at times we have to do an intra-articular for patients who have some type of joint injuries. So Kevin's here. We're going to get that done today, and hopefully he'll feel better.
Now, you know, Dr. Sammy's originally from where?
I'm from New Jersey, USA, New Jersey, and I've been here for 5 years in Dubai. And we just opened up Lifespan Sports Medicine earlier this week, and we're ready to rock and roll.
So why UAE?
Well, UAE gives you the opportunity in regards to the healthcare rate in regulations will allow us to do a little bit more than what we're able to do in the USA. And they're really focused on rejuvenation, regeneration, stem cells, exosomes, anything that we can do to use as a preventative measure in regards to treating patients. We're able to get that through the help of the upper administration as well as the people up top in terms of the government. There's a strong push for having the type of medical treatments that are advanced, and the UAE is the place for that. So I don't see any place else where they allow you to do the things that we're able to do here.
In other words, they're illegal.
I love this country. I mean, I like the fact that they're very, very, very advanced. It's a safe place. The culture's amazing. The food's incredible. And I just finished Finance Week in Abu Dhabi. I've traveled to Dubai today, a 45-minute drive down this incredible highway. Why? Because the COP28 conference about climate change. I'm an investor. I always look for new opportunities. And there's a lot of technology here about carbon sequestration, which I want to apply like places like North Dakota, West Virginia, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, back at the farm, check that out. Look at that. The big drip is going on. Yeah. For those of you a little squeamish, yeah, but at the same time, you want to take advantage of this technology. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Anyways, right after this, I'm going to do some television. Then 2:30 this morning or 2:55, I get on a plane, go to Geneva. I'll check in with you then. Dr. Sammy, thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Hope we can see you guys soon. And good luck. Best of luck to everybody.
I didn't tell you, I'm actually a vampire.
Right. I'm just sitting here thinking, sounds a lot like adrenochrome. Because it's about longevity. It's about the fountain of youth. Kevin O'Leary seems to have found it. In stem cell therapy. He's not alone. And I'm sure that he's just joking about being a vampire. Oh, Jesus. What kind of world are we living in? Oh, this is so... Okay. Now, that's not adrenochrome. That's stem cell therapy. Totally different thing. And he's not Jewish. He's from Lebanon, I believe. Let's just check that, shall we? Kevin O'Leary. There he is. Yeah, he was born, they call him Mr. Wonderful. And I like a lot of what he says about finances. He's a Maple Man, Mr. Wonderful. He was born July 9th, 1954 in Montreal, Canada. One of two sons of Georgette Boukalem, a small business owner and investor of Lebanese descent, and Terry O'Leary, a salesman of Irish descent. Irish, Lebanese, Canadian. Oh my, and very wealthy. Not like Donald Trump kind of rich, but I don't think he's quite a billionaire, but he's worth quite a bit. I've seen different amounts, how much his net worth is. Yeah, he ran in 2017 for the Federal Conservative Party of Canada in the leadership race. He eventually dropped out. I don't think his French was very good, if I remember correctly. It could be wrong. Yeah, he had a lack of support in Quebec. He got a lot of attention, a lot of brand traction, I would say, by running for the leadership. Yeah. Immigration. O'Leary has proposed creating a fast track for citizenship, graduate from college or university, and find employment, as well as for their spouses and children. He's also advocated for increased border security in order to tackle the issue of irregular border crossing. In a lot of ways, I've always kind of liked him. This is, I think it's kind of telling. Dubai, climate change, COP28, playground for the rich and famous. It's also a place for it's a center of finance. There are cryptocurrency exchanges there now. M2. He's investing in M2. But before we get to that, I'll just show you, though, these rich folks doing this stem cell therapy might be getting a little ahead of themselves, because the reason it's going on over there is because it's not approved over here in quite the same way. There are some places where you can get stem cell therapy, but here I'll show you how this has become kind of a big thing as part of tourism in Dubai and the UAE. Here's an article on medical tourism. Emirates healthcare giant aims to extend human lifespan. Pure Health, it's a different company, aims for Abu Dhabi to become the land of longevity. Emirates healthcare giant Pure Health has set out its vision to make Abu Dhabi the land of longevity, a healthcare destination focused on extending life. And they provide stem cell therapy as well. So there's just another taste of that. And here's a little more information on stem cell therapy. I'm not a doctor, but this is the literature on it online. Stem cell-derived exosome versus stem cell therapy. Stem cell therapies are being explored for treatment of various diseases, including hematological disease, immune disease, neurodegenerative disease, and tissue injuries. Alternatively, stem cell-derived exosomes may provide similar clinical benefits without the biosafety concerns associated with the transplantation of living cells. However, large-scale manufacturing and purification, batch-to-batch variation, and analysis of the complex cargoes of exosomes will need to be addressed to enable their clinical translation. Stem cells, including embryonic stem cells, ES cells, induced pluripotent stem IPS cells, and adult stem cells have the ability to self-renew and give rise to differentiated cells. Their potential to differentiate into cells of different tissues makes them particularly interesting for applications in regenerative medicine. For example, ES cell-derived cardiomyocyte transplantation is promising for myocardium regeneration. However, since the first therapy using stem cells has been developed in 1957, only few stem cell-based therapies have entered the clinic. According to data from the U.S. National Institutes of Health, thousands of stem cell therapy-related clinical trials have been registered. At present, the only U.S. Food and Drug Administration FDA-approved stem cell therapy is oh, you're testing me. Hematopoietic progenitor cell HPC transplantation. Don't ask me exactly what that means. For hematopoietic and immunological reconstitution in patients with disorders that affect the hematopoietic system. In addition, a few stem cell products derived from mesenchymal stem cells or tissue-specific stem cells have been approved for clinical use, such as parenchymal cells or tissue-specific stem cells have been approved for clinical use, such as prochymal, approved in Canada for the treatment of acute graft versus host disease, and holoclar, approved in Europe to repair injured comia. This is all beyond me, honestly. I'm not familiar enough with this subject matter to make exact sense of those words. I'd have to educate myself more, but that's what it says. So I'm sharing that. Nevertheless, here's another article to show that there are some risks associated with this. And isn't it interesting that he ran over there to have his DNA sequenced? And isn't it interesting that every citizen in Dubai and in the UAE gets to have their DNA sequenced for free? As I said, as you learned, about 90% of the population, 90% of the workforce, immigrants, and not necessarily citizens. That means they don't get the health care, but the 10% who live there as citizens do. Also, that means that the people working there as immigrant workers, because they're not citizens, they're not going to have the same rights as people who live there. Also, the government there, I'm not so sure that it's entirely democratic. I was looking at the government structure in UAE, and it's kind of tribal, and they do have an electoral college, but if you're a citizen, you have to earn the right to be part of the electoral college or something. I don't really understand the system, but it's a lot different than what we have here. It's also, a lot of this is based on Sharia law, and they also have Sharia economic law over there. And in recent years, there's been a real push to sort of get some progressive labor and economic policies in place. And they're adopting some of them very slowly, but there's no minimum wage. This is like probably as close to a pure free market as you're likely to get, except that they are exploiting, I would say, neighboring countries to bring in cheap, almost slave labor to fuel their fortune. Here's this from DVC STEM. Stem cell therapy benefits and risks. Stem cell therapy harnesses the body's own cells to repair and regenerate damaged tissues, offering new treatment avenues for a variety of conditions. It's a key area of medical research with potential to significantly improve patient health outcomes. Current studies are focused on its safety and effectiveness in regenerative medicine. So what exactly is it? Stem cell therapy is a pioneering approach to regenerative medicine, leverages the unique ability of stem cells to repair and regenerate diverse tissues in the body. Regeneration occurs through immune regulation and inflammation reduction. So mesenchymal stem cells, or MSCs, a type of adult stem cell, stand out for their versatility and fewer ethical concerns compared to embryonic or fetal stem cells. So we'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll say that hopefully they're using adult stem cells over there at that clinic where Kevin O'Leary was getting his treatment, extracted from various tissues like bone, tendon, skin, and umbilical cord. MSCs can differentiate into multiple tissue types, including muscle, bone, and cartilage. In other words, you can grow back certain tissues. Stem cell therapy has shown promising results in treating a range of conditions from multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Crohn's disease, and heart diseases like myocardial infarction and heart failure, to the potential management of osteoarthritis. So if you have damaged skins, bones, any kind of tissue, a damaged heart, the idea here and the science is that they can basically regrow the tissue using stem cells to rejuvenate you. If you were able to do that, you could potentially, well, who knows how long you could live if they can do all of that. And they have proven that in some cases that is possible. That's why Michael J. Fox, with Parkinson's disease, was lobbying the government in the United States to approve stem cell research. But that kind of research, extremely controversial because it uses stem cells from aborted fetuses. You may also remember that when the thingy came out for the arm, a lot of people opposed to using it because why? They did stem cell research in conjunction with, or as part of that. And while it's not, don't believe there are actual stem cells in the stuff. They did use stem cells in the research. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, some people will say that there are stem cells in the stuff, but the Catholic Church then came out with the new Pope and said, it's okay. You can go ahead and use it anyway, even though it appears to go against the grain of Catholicism, violating many of the ethical standards that are there for Christians to follow on an issue like that. But hey, it's all right. The Pope said it's okay. He's a pretty progressive kind of guy. Oh my. So you've got these elite vampires jet setting all over the country, going to COP28. I wonder how many of these politicians and bureaucrats stopped by the Lifespan Clinic to get a little youth juice. Think Stephen Guilbeault or any of these other Canadian or U.S. politicians slid in there? I don't know. Kevin O'Leary is something of a social media influencer. Do you think did that video have kind of a promotional feel to it? You know what it costs to get that kind of therapy done? I looked it up. Anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000. $5,000 to $50,000. You got to have some pretty deep pockets to just pay for that. I don't think that the Ontario Health Insurance Plan is going to cover that one. I don't think the Canadian healthcare system is going to cover that one. But, you know, that's sort of the problem with healthcare, socialized healthcare as well, right? If you're going to have universal healthcare, Doesn't this just lay it out for you, folks? They have stem cell therapy that can extend life. They now have stem cell therapy that could fix damaged hearts after a heart attack. Stem cell therapy to cure your arthritis. But it costs $5,000 to $50,000 a pop. Who do they make that available to? Nobody? Everybody? In Canada, with a socialized healthcare system, you're supposed to have equal access, equal treatments for everyone. As I've pointed out many times before, we already have a two-tier healthcare system in this country because the people who can afford it, if they need treatment and can't get it in a timely fashion, they just leave the country and go buy it someplace else anyway. If they want therapies that are not available here, they just climb on a jet and fly off to Dubai. And what would it mean for the socialized healthcare system if they started to treat people to a place where you live to be, say, 150 years old because they keep giving you the youth juice, and now you're 150 and still kicking? Are you productive? At what point do people become a burden on the healthcare system? These are important questions for the future. Who lives? Who dies? Who gets treatment? Who doesn't? Who continues to be productive in society? Who isn't? If you are living a much longer life, how much or what percentage of your life do you live in which time you are productive and contributing to society? And how much of your life do you live being a burden on society, being a drag on the resources, consuming but not producing? You don't think that these bureaucrats map these things out? Is it fair for Mr. O'Leary and the other elite jet setters to be able to fly off to Dubai and get some youth juice? What about you? What about me? What about everybody? We pay our taxes. So does he. Now, he pays extra. But if the technology is there, shouldn't you have access to it too? These are complex ethical questions, are they not? And so if they make it available in Canada as a treatment at all, now suddenly everybody gets it. Would that be an incentive maybe to not provide it to people? Why is it available in Dubai, but not on such a widespread scale here in North America? Well, there are a number of countries where it is offered, and it is offered on to some degree in Canada and the United States, but only for certain procedures. The FDA has warned, however, that there are risks associated with this kind of treatment, and the kinds of treatments they're offering at these spas may not be as effective as they're making them out to be. Or maybe you don't want to believe that. Maybe this youth juice really does work really well, and they just don't want people to have it because it would be too expensive for the government to cover it. Maybe the cost to society as a whole would be too great. Maybe that's why they won't give the public full access to it, leaving it only for those who can truly afford it to fly off to faraway places and partake in the youth juice. Here's a report from ABC Action News. In Florida, this is actually from a couple of years ago, but this lays out the pros and cons of the youth juice, stem cell therapy.
And desperate, that's who medical experts say are the targets of a booming new health industry here in Florida.
Yeah, the promise here, better health. But the truth is, many patients are left disappointed, frustrated, and in some cases, even sicker after treatment.
ABC Action News investigator Katie Lagrone shows you how to protect yourself.
Dubbed the medicine of tomorrow, stem cell therapy uses your own specialized cells to heal certain injuries and treat specific diseases.
Pretty wide open, promising future.
But across Florida, we've discovered stem cell clinics popping up like med spas.
There's a concern about the public safety.
Offering vulnerable patients.
Sometimes I think I'd be better off dead.
Some treatments that are unproven.
There's no evidence for that.
Many unregulated.
It's just a money-making scam.
And potentially dangerous.
And he told me that he loved me.
Dorothy Carver was seeking hope for her husband's terminal lung disease.
We thought it was worth a try, just to breathe better.
She loved to play cards.
Olga Cassidy wanted a little more time with her husband also dying.
So I thought he'll have a little bit better life and we can live longer.
I'm at a bad stage now.
And Maureen Rosen was just trying to slow down her COPD. The Lung Institute offered an answer.
I thought, this is great. I can go for probably years without needing oxygen.
Inside this downtown Tampa skyscraper, the Lung Institute's Florida branch occupies space on 2 floors. Its website features more than 24 smiling clients, along with claims its 2-day minimally invasive stem cell therapies are beneficial to patients during any stage of their disease.
What were your husband's results? None. Actually, he got worse.
He didn't improve at all. It just really got worse.
It seemed like from the day I had it, I started to get worse.
Can stem cell really treat lung cancer?
Not yet.
COPD?
No.
Fibrosis of the lungs?
No.
Other kinds of cancers?
Not really. It's mainly blood type cancers.
Dr. Bill Allen teaches medical ethics at UF's College of Medicine.
We wouldn't call it research if we knew that it worked.
Call it a stem cell oversell, now prompting federal warnings, state concerns.
Many of these clinics are experimental, which is meaning the patients are paying for something that nobody knows whether it works or not.
And lawsuits, including this new class action against the Lung Institute, accused of offering sham treatments based on sham science and deception. Its one-line response: the Lung Institute has declined to participate in the story.
I burned everything up that had the Lung Institute on it.
A few months after his near $6,000 stem cell therapy for lung disease, Dorothy's Bill died of a heart attack.
I guess I blame them.
9,500.
Olga's husband, already on oxygen, took his last breath about 5 months after his treatment there.
It cost me $7,500.
And today,
I feel like I'm a dog on a leash in the house.
Maureen is weighed down by more than just an oxygen tank.
It's just a matter of time, I'm sure.
While there's no proof stem cell therapy caused any additional health problems for these patients, all are now suing the Lung Institute after being sold on the pitch that tomorrow's medicine might just have been their answer today. The best advice from experts: be critical. Don't believe all the hype. While stem cells offer great promise, its proven effects are so far limited. I'm I-Team investigator Katie Legrone, taking action for you.
So some of these high-flying, jet-setting elites partaking in medical tourism might not be getting exactly what they're bargaining for. And, you know, when it comes to this kind of stuff, for me, this just provides a direct line to some of these old tropes, old stories that keep being recycled into new tales, some of them political, some of them social, like babies being sacrificed and crazy stories like that, where there's maybe a grain of truth in there. Well, I think what we're showing you here tonight is the grain of truth. Yes, there are elites who engage in kind of strange things. And I would say, yes, there are absolutely parties that take place where people do really crazy things, but also just right out in the open, you're seeing that this kind of therapy, it's all linked to blood, which only gives rise to and amplifies those people who are talking about things that are characterized by others as conspiracy theories involving, blood and children. Because this smacks of exactly those things. Vampirism. I mean, he gets it. He's clued in. Kevin O'Leary. He sits there at the very end of it and he says, I'm a vampire. And in a way, it's kind of true, because you're getting this therapy, which is youth juice, which could potentially make people immortal. Right? But they're dependent on it, because this therapy, from what I've read in the last 24 hours, indicates that this therapy is good for about a year, maybe. The long-term benefits can go beyond that, but the stem cells themselves are only active and only work for about a year, at which point you need to go back and get another dose. They keep you coming back for more. But you keep doing it, and who knows? I mean, it's supposed to give you a more youthful appearance. It can repair, it can prevent a lot of diseases, they say. I don't know. The FDA warns that it could actually cause cancer. So you can gauge for yourself, do more research for yourself. You've seen kind of both sides of the coin on that. And speaking of coins, what about Bitcoin? Well, Kevin O'Leary was also in Dubai for Finance Week, being the rich guy that he is and the financial analyst. And I'm sure you've seen him on a lot of financial shows, providing his input on everything from this week, Elon Musk's Cybertruck launch, to cryptocurrencies. And Kevin O'Leary was in Dubai because he's very interested in a new exchange for cryptocurrencies called M2. And this is a direct competitor to Binance, which is a Chinese-owned cryptocurrency exchange, the biggest in the world, as I understand it. I used to have an account there where I have all of like $150, had $150 tied up until they were kicked out of Ontario for lack of compliance with regulations here. But here's M2, which is supposed to be fully compliant. And Kevin O'Leary has been making it clear that he intends to be a big investor in this. He lost a bunch of money on cryptocurrency with the FTX scandal himself. Kevin O'Leary commenting on that on some of the financial shows, and how that also tied into Binance, because Binance, being a competitor to FTX, took steps, as he explains here, to kind of help ensure the collapse of FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. Here's Kevin O'Leary talking about that.
Simple case in my mind of where did the money go? And I said, Sam, walk me back 24 months. Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it? And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months, the repurchase of his shares from Binance, his competitor. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. Apparently, according to Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ would not comply with the regulators' request in these different geographies, these different jurisdictions, to provide the data that would clear them for a license. He withheld it, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out. This is a simple case in my mind of where did the money go? And I said, Sam, walk me back 24 months. Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it? And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months, the repurchase of his shares from Binance, his competitor. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. Apparently, according to Sam Bankman-Fried, CZ would not comply with the regulators' request in these different geographies, these different jurisdictions, to provide the data that would clear them for a license. He withheld it, according to Sam Bankman-Fried. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out. This is a simple case in my mind of where.
So he lost a bunch of money on FTX, says he doesn't regret it. Now he's focused on M2. And Kevin O'Leary explains why here. He's big on this because M2 he sees as taking a huge chunk of the Binance business.
Anticipation of finally licensing a Bitcoin ETF, which I'm not as optimistic will happen overnight, but it does show you that the age of the crypto cowboy, the FTX and the Binance, those days are over. This month, in the next 10 days, they will announce M2 in Abu Dhabi, the largest exchange ever that's regulated, with billions backing it and tied to huge financial institutions. Really what they're going after is Binance will probably lose half of its accounts to the new M2, because now you can go off something that the SEC is suing and go onto a compliant exchange that's backed by billions of dollars and huge financial institutions. Hi.
So that's why one of the reasons he was over there was for Finance Week, making some deals, making some investments, meeting with government leaders of, the heads of companies, and they're because of M2, which is based in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. So that's interesting, isn't it? So there he is with the well-heeled, and also there for COP28. And you don't think there's a class war going on? Oh, different kind of life, isn't it? Now, I'm all for free markets, right? Dubai, wow. Talk about a free market. No taxes. Everything paid for by oil. It's all money that flows in from around the world. They don't need to charge any taxes. But only 10% of the people there are citizens. So they don't have the overhead for social programs. And all the people coming in, you think that they're going to take care of those folks in the long run? I don't know. Doesn't sound so great. Yeah. I'm all about free markets, but I'm also about fair transactions. And I don't hear any of these politicians, any of these bureaucrats, any of these jet setters, I haven't heard a single one out of those 84,000 people who registered and went to COP28 bringing up any of this stuff. But I'm bringing it up here. And there's Kevin O'Leary, who is there at COP28. Why? Because he wants to, I think he's pretty much on record as a conservative, as calling out a lot of this climate change stuff as maybe being a little misleading. And he's there for carbon sequestration technology, which he wants to put into place in places like, did I hear him say North Dakota? That's interesting. North Dakota. Dakota Access Pipeline controversy. What's that link to? Keystone XL. Where does that go? Alberta. Where does that go? Tar sands. Well, isn't that interesting? Might have to look into that a little bit more. Might just have to look into that a little bit more. Because, you know, I've heard Kevin O'Leary's name thrown around a little bit in the last month or so. Haven't you? If you've been watching this show, is it just is my recollection serving me well? Do you recall something about Kevin O'Leary's name coming up? Anybody out there? Let me check the comments here. Anybody remember any talk about Kevin O'Leary? What was that all about? Who's been talking about Kevin O'Leary? I'm racking my brain. I'm thinking back. Somebody mentioned Kevin O'Leary. Gonna have to give that some more thought. Yeah, I mentioned his name. Yeah, you're right. I did, because somebody on this program mentioned his name. Yeah, we had a special guest on the one night talking about somebody had been talking about, well, we'll get into it another night. Maybe. I got to make sure I've got my facts straight. And just for the record, I've always liked Kevin O'Leary. I like what he does on TV. I thought his video tonight was pretty entertaining. I'm in no way suggesting that he's done anything wrong here. He's just doing his thing in his own way, and he has every right to go and do what he's doing over there. I thought that it was just kind of ironic, especially the way he ended that thing off saying he's a vampire. I thought that was there was real irony in that for me anyway. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but kind of different. That was different. Hang on. What a weird world we're living in these days. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, The Atlantic. Are you familiar with the magazine? They're not big fans of Donald Trump, and they have an issue out, a new issue, where they are clearly terrified of the Orange Man. They have a number of articles in this edition, and they are sounding the alarm bell on Trump, saying, what if he gets elected again? It will be much worse than the first time. And they're trying to put perspective on it with really a variety of different angles on this. Here, look at this one. Look at the headline on this article in this new edition of the Atlantic. The GOP, it says, is a grave threat to American democracy. The hope of many conservative critics of Donald Trump was that soon after his defeat, and especially in the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection, the Republican Party would snap back into its former shape. The Trump presidency would end up being no more than an ugly parenthesis. The GOP would distance itself from Trump and Trumpism and become a normal party once again. Hardly. But that dream soon died. The Trump presidency might have been the first act in a longer and even darker political drama in which the Republican Party is becoming more radicalized. How long this will last is an open question. Whether it is happening is not. The radicalization manifests in a myriad of ways, most notably in Trump's enduring popularity among Republicans. Trump's loyalists have launched ferocious attacks against Republican lawmakers who voted to impeach him for his role in the insurrection, even as national Republicans eagerly position themselves as his heir. Right-wing media display growing fanaticism, while public opinion polls show GOP voters embracing Trump's lie that the election was stolen from him. They are so afraid. They are afraid of him. Yes, they are. So, they are sounding the alarm bell, expressing deep concerns about the potential return of the former president, Donald Trump, in 2024. Despite negative polls for President Biden surge in support for Trump amid ongoing legal challenges, the Atlantic is raising the alarm bells over the possibility of a second Trump presidency. I remember the first time he won, they said, oh, no, it's 90% chance Hillary's going to win. No way he's going to win. In a bold declaration today, the Atlantic warned the next Trump presidency will be worse, setting the tone for their upcoming January-February 2024 issue titled, If Trump Wins. So this edition will feature insights from 24 contributors exploring the potential consequences across various topics if Trump does indeed secure re-election. Among the published essays so far are discussions on autocracy, NATO, the Loyalists, immigration, the Justice Department, misogyny, climate, and journalism. Editor-in-Chief Jeffrey Goldberg emphasized the magazine's concerns, asserting that Trump's first term inflicted, in his words, serious damage on America, and a second term would be, in his words, much worse. Goldberg, in a note, expressed a desire for both a strong conservative party and a robust liberal party for America to flourish, despite the Atlantic's history of articles disparaging conservatives. Notable headlines include the GOP is a grave threat to American democracy, which I just showed you, the terrifying future of the American right, and the Republican Party is radicalizing against democracy. The Atlantic's apprehensions about Trump's return are shared by other mainstream media outlets, as I'm sure you're aware, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, indicating a growing acknowledgement of Trump's potential re-election despite ongoing legal challenges. So, we do need to note here, in case you haven't figured it out already, that the Atlantic is considered to be an establishment mouthpiece by many, especially Republicans and especially MAGA Republicans, with a history of showing contempt for the American people at large. We'll keep following this story. They are petrified because he is still the front runner. He is still the guy to beat for the nomination. It's his to lose. The presidency is his to lose, especially if Biden manages to run again. And here's a look at the Atlantic index from this edition, outlining all of the stories that people will be able to read about if you want to be really, really, really afraid of Donald Trump. David Frum on autocracy, Ann Applebaum on NATO, McKay Coppins on the Loyalists, Caitlin Dickerson on immigration, Barton Gelman on the Justice Department. It goes on. Elaine Godfrey on abortion, Megan Garber on disinformation, Clint Smith on history, Spencer Kornhaber on freedom, Tom Nichols on the military, Helen Lewis on the left, Jennifer Senior on anxiety, and Mark Leibovich on America's character. America sure is different today than it was even just a few years ago. Wow. Society has so changed, and I so do miss the before times. And yet, it's pretty clear who's pro-America and who is truly the threat to democracy. I'll be right back.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
In an ocean of lies a century deep, the truth awaits. Choose not the red pill. Choose not the blue pill. For both are an illusion. Discover the power of M. The power of individuality. We are Mavericks. We are the way to the light. Fear not the storm. Join our quest for truth. Truth will set you free. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So is Donald Trump truly a threat to democracy, or is...
We want to see China rise.
China is not our enemy.
China is a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion. China is not a problem. That a rising China is a positive development, not only for the people of China, but for the United States and the world as a whole. And I'm even more convinced now that a rising China is an incredibly positive development for not only China, but the United States and the rest of the world. A rising China can be a significant asset for the region and the world.
President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping in San Francisco tonight.
And the city is making a big push to clean its image up, literally. Hundreds of public workers clearing homeless encampments, picking up trash and washing graffiti.
San Francisco is an embarrassment, and they don't care about the residents. They only care about impressing Xi Jinping.
And they are now tracking a suspected Chinese spy balloon hovering over the northern U.S.
Authorities are tracking a giant Chinese spy balloon that has been hovering over the northern U.S. for several days.
U.S. officials are closely watching the Chinese military's meteoric growth.
China is now the #1 country when it comes to making cars. For a long time, Germany and the U.S. held the top spot.
Lawmakers are concerned over China's growing influence in the United States, and they are looking into China's expanding purchases of large amounts of American property.
China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah, oh, come on. I'm coming on every night. Coming on every single night. Because I still want my country back. Because I still want my freedom. Because I ain't done yet. Not even close. Because I'm tired of things like this thing here. Also from the Atlantic. Tired of, let me find it for you here. Tired of looking at stuff like, where'd you go? Yeah, right there. Tired of this. Tired of this. Inflation is your fault. What? Inflation is your fault. The Atlantic says in this article, this op-ed by Annie Lowry, says, if people are so mad about high prices, why do they keep buying so many expensive things? What? That is a let them eat cake moment, as many people have pointed out. Yeah. Why do they keep buying? Because they need to eat. I'm and because the people who are really, really rich, they have ways of making themselves even richer when inflation hits. Because when inflation hits, the people with the least are the first to have to liquidate. And so they end up having to sell off their assets for pennies on the dollar. And the people with all the money at the top, they get to buy up those assets if they're smart, because they buy low and sell high. So when the economy crashes, they just buy up more when you ain't got nothing. And that's why people have to keep buying the expensive stuff, because it's the only stuff there is to buy. Except for bugs. And I bet you even those will be taxed. Oh, my goodness. All right, folks, 9:14. Let's go to the phones. Hang on, stick with me. I'll be right back, and we'll give you guys a chance to chime in on tonight's broadcast.
Exile. The Knights of Malta. Maverick News. Join us. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, I am getting things cranked up here. Oh my goodness, where'd we go? Hang on. Not fast enough. Okay. It's on a security timer, and I had to pop over here. So just stick with me while I set this thing up again. I can't click in between the screens fast enough. So you'll just have to watch me work. We'll do it one more time. Well, I set these phones up. Isn't it interesting watching me click buttons? You can get ready to call in, though. In fact, why don't I put that number up on the screen? You can call that number, 1-833-975-3733. It's right there on the screen for you to call in. Here we go. Let me try and get this thing rocking and rolling here again. Call that number on the screen early, call often. And just a reminder that you can also support the show by donating at freedomreporters.com. Or at maverickdonations.com. There we go. All right, the system is set up. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe over on Rumble. That's super duper important to us. And here is the number to call tonight to join the conversation.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Via Maverick. Join us.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and we'll add you guys to the mix, and we are now ready to take our first caller of the night, and it's the man himself. Go ahead, sir. How are you tonight?
Well, hello there, Mr. Rick Walker. How are you today?
Well, I'm just fine, son. How are you?
I'm calling from Dubai. I watched the show in Dubai, and I'll tell you what a shithole Dubai is.
Can you believe that?
I can't believe any of that shit. Well, I do believe it. It's a fucking shithole, right? With lots of money, and they created a city, okay, a big city. Some would say a very nice city. I don't say it's a very nice city because the way they created it was dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And people in the chat, Paul said, they pay $300,000 a year for a construction worker. I just started laughing because I knew, right? I've watched a lot of shows on the building of Dubai and the slaves that they brought in from third world countries and how many have died as a result of no safety. It's shameful, right? And what they pay, they're not paying people $300,000 a year for shit.
Shameful.
Period. It is. And what's more shameful about it is let's have the climate change agenda there. Of all places in this shitty world, let's have it there. Might as well have it in fucking Palestine.
That's what I said. Yeah. Why don't they do it in Palestine? It'll help rejuvenate the economy. They ain't going there, are they?
No, fuck, hell no. Or the West Bank or Ukraine.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, here they are, and we're getting taxed out of our fucking asses over here in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's only a matter of time before we see things get real crazy in this country, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we got politicians out there like Polyev, okay, and he's stating the facts. Oh, there's corruption in the government. What are you doing about it? As a politician, elected politician, there's laws being fucking broken here.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to be standing up for the people. The RCMP got their heads in their asses because they're paid for by who? The government. They're the government fucking KGB. People have lost a lot of trust in the police.
Yeah, CSIS is like that, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yep.
Right? They have their agenda, the RCMP, and it's not to go after politicians, not the elected politicians, even though they're breaking the law, plain as day. Right? We have to stand idle to watch this shit. You know, that just says something for the next government coming in. What can we get away with? And that's fucking scary, Rick. That's scary.
It is.
You know, when you see the price tags of the price of food now, it's ridiculous. And now they're going to say, oh, well, that's because of the war in Ukraine or the war in Israel. Okay, the gross national product. Okay, or Israel has nothing to do with it. Now, what happened?
We lost our internet there for a second, so you might want to repeat what you just said. But we're back.
Repeat it for me. What did they say?
I don't know because I couldn't hear you because the internet completely.
No, I said the price of food over here in Canada, and they could sit there and blame it on the war in Ukraine or the war in Israel. Okay, and that's what they're going to do. And we have nothing to do with the Ukraine's gross national product, whatever that's supposed to be, or Israel's. When it comes down to our food, you know, they're making record fucking dollars at the end of the day, when the government can't step in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a humanitarian fucking crisis that's going to happen here in Canada when people can't afford to live in a house and people can't afford food. Okay, you know, where's the rest of the world?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, the solution has to be fix the actual root problem, which is the money spending and the money printing, and rein that in order to get things stabilized. To just throw more money at it by giving money to people, that's actually not going to solve the problem. And to try and fix prices or bring in price controls, that creates unintended consequences too. So, you know, the problem the problem is the creation of the government. The solution is not more government. We need to get the government out of the economy a little bit more in order to provide proper market mechanisms to stabilize the value of the dollar and bring us back to normal pricing. So you've got proper pricing mechanisms in place again. This is crazy, this inflation.
It's crazy. The government has no business in business.
Right.
Other than, running the country. Not EV fucking plants and 13 billion here and 10 billion here and just throwing it away.
Yeah. Create a good environment for business, but don't be the business.
Here's a good one for you. I got friends that own dealerships, Chrysler dealership, another one, a Ford dealership in Rio out in LaSalle, with the Chevy dealership. I was talking to my buddy the other day because my truck's in the shop, and he gave me a brand new one off the lot. Like, you know, you fucking already put almost 4,000 kilometers on it in 2 weeks. And I said, hey, man, you know, I'm working out in Chatham now, and I'm running up the kilometers. Oh, well, that's the way it is. He says, we're not making any money, Leo. The EV shit's going to fucking, it's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's screwing the dealerships. He said, we sold 14 cars in the last 30 days. Okay. It sounds like a lot, but they don't make much off the car, right?
No, they don't.
I said, well, your service garage must make money. He goes, no, Lisa, the mechanics want $60 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I said, unbelievable. Right. So I believe them. They're not making money, and it's family owned businesses, right? All these dealerships, a lot of them, right? And they're going to lose. They're going to lose. And they don't think this EV thing's going to pull off the way that the government thinks it's going to, because it's a matter of choice at the end of the day. You know, it's my money. I want to spend it the way that I want to spend it, not the way that you tell me to. That's communism.
Yes.
Pretty damn close to communism.
This is exactly what it is. It's planned economy. Yeah, centrally planned economy.
Right, and now they want to come out with this equalized payment for everybody, so we make the same across the board. There's words of that coming up. The 15-minute cities, all this crazy shit. Okay, and where's the money coming from? We're out of money. We're tapped, and we're paying 66% in tax, one way or another, folks. Okay, 66%. Listen to me. Okay, everything's taxed. The carbon tax. At the end of the day, it's 66% of your wage is going to taxes. How much more can they squeeze you for? Right? The debt ceiling's fucking, we're above all that shit, right? As for the CBC also, that's great. Was it 600 workers?
Yep. And another 200 they're not going to fill, so 800 jobs in total. Gone.
I can't stand that. I can't stand that Chantal Hebert, okay, who talks politics all the time. Looks like a guy. Dude looks like a lady, right? I can't wait till they're gone. You know, all they're talking about is they really need the Liberals to win, right? They really do.
Yeah, they do, because they'll keep the cash rolling, but they don't deserve it. Why should
you could hear by the... I watch it for a laugh, right? It's like Saturday Night Live. I watch it for the laugh. When I hear them start talking.
They've always had government funding. They also get advertising revenue on top of that. And then they got more government funding with this, this last round of government policies. So why can't they survive? They're totally inefficient. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Because it's greediness. It is. And what happens with what we see here, now we have somebody from CTV, who's the Deputy Prime Minister, Christina Freeland, who knew fuck all about politics, and her scripted journalism got her to the top. Trudeau leaves tomorrow. Who's the boss in power? She is. It's scary times, guys. Right? I don't know what the solution is. I know vote. But like I said, when you have governments out there, okay, and the Conservatives right now are leading by a majority like never before seen, okay, and they can't do nothing about the corruption that's going on. They could point it out, but when it comes down to action, there is no action. Wow. It's like we're in a banana republic, and we're all watching it unfold, and it's not going to unfold fucking easy, I'll tell you. Because a lot of people, as soon as people start losing their houses and they got nowhere to go, and they keep bringing in 500,000 immigrants per year is what they want to do, right? And there's nowhere for these people to live, right?
Yeah, we're up to almost we're up to like almost 1 million a year, and then on top of that, we're getting the additional 500,000 from Palestine. So it'll be about probably 1.4 million this coming year if this all happens.
And we're only a country of 40 million people, and you have almost 7 million people out at food banks last month that are dipping in the food banks. Okay, that's the number they say. It's probably a lot higher than 7 million. Okay, that's a scary thing, guys. You take away. I could care less about the fucking climate tomorrow. I'm worried about today. So what makes the government think that I'm going to worry about the climate tomorrow or next month? I don't give a fuck about next month. I'm just worried about today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care about fucking next month or next year. We're just trying to make it, right? And it is what it is, right? The whole economy is fucking upside down right now. I don't give a shit what the Liberals say. Oh, we created 25,000 jobs last month. Where? At fucking McDonald's? The shopping mall for Christmas? That happens every year at this time. They anticipate people to spend money for Christmas. Well, there is no money for Christmas for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right? So what happens then? Layoffs. Sorry, people are not spending the way that they should be, or we thought they would be, right? Because there is no money. So with that being said, I'm almost as broke as no fucking joke, but guess what? I'm still working.
Well, at least you have at least you have a job, and I'm seeing some people in our own family here, our Maverick family, that are having some trouble even finding a place to live. So,
exactly. And then here we go. That was the best one. It was Polyev. I didn't agree with him when he said, "Oh, there should be bonuses for construction companies that build before the time, right? Give those people bonuses." What's going to happen there is, how you use 4 nails on a 2x4, you're only going to get 1 or 2. One at the top, one at the bottom. Okay, well, I'm going to build your house. I'm going to build it really fucking quick, and I'm going to get that bonus. Right?
Yeah.
Half measures of bail is nothing, Rick, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And where's that money going to come from, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
But the cost of lumber, the cost of everything else, it's gone retarded in this country. You can't build a house like you used to. Okay, for $100,000, you could build a new home.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, 15 years ago, you could build a new fucking home for $150,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's not happening. The price of material for that same house 15 years ago is now $350,000. You know,
yeah,
and that's going to be the big problem. Yeah, they could dish out billions and billions of dollars. You're not going to get millions of houses for your billions of dollars. Those days are long gone, and I don't know how they're going to come back.
Me either.
I don't. No, me either. You know, so if you're sitting on a property, you just might be golden. That might be your golden goose. You're sitting on 2 or 3. You're styling.
Yeah.
I don't see the price of real estate coming down at all for anybody.
No, what we need is more growth, more economic growth. We need more jobs. We need more manufacturing. We need to bring that stuff back to give people high paying, good paying jobs. I'm not worried about the minimum wage. I want to get everybody the maximum wage. That's what I want.
Right. Well, if auto workers are making $45 an hour and I'm skilled trades and I'm at $35 an hour, we get a fucking problem there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got a big fucking problem there. You know, I went to school. I learned. I've been in the same trade. An auto worker just can't come into my trade. And guess what? Oh, I'm going to learn your job in a fucking week. It's going to take you 5 to fucking 7 years to learn my trade. You want to learn how to read blueprints? You're not going to do that overnight.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. It's to the point where I hope they get this EV thing going just so I could get the fuck over there at $45 an hour. I don't give a shit if it works or not. If I got 10 years worth of work over there, at least you got a better pension, right? It's way better. You got better benefits. You're making $45 an hour. At least you know where you'll be in 10 years.
Unless those companies go bankrupt doing it, which is entirely possible.
It is possible.
Yep.
And I see that happening because if the economy's so shit, okay, and you're paying auto workers $45 an hour, you know what that means, folks? The price of that car is going up. It's not coming down.
And they're building a product that people do not want, building a product that does not work as advertised. So it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, the battery, it's like my battery. I'm up in Ottawa for the Freedom Convoy. My battery was fucking dying on me. I was wondering why. A local said, it's -40 outside. And I thought, you're right. And it was sucking the juice out of my battery. That's how cold it was.
Yep.
What do you think these cars are going to do down the 401 at -40? Okay. You're driving down the road at -40. Okay. It's -40 outside. You're doing 100 kilometers an hour. Now you're looking at -80 on the front of your car under that battery.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a lot of death on the side of the road. That's what's going to happen. Because people are not going to put the blankets and their winter jackets and big winter boots and everything in the cars. I don't need to. I'm in my new electric car. I'm just cruising. I'm styling. You're going to freeze to death. You're going to die. And it don't take long at those temperatures.
Yeah. And you're going to wish you were in Dubai getting some youth juice in the sun instead of sitting on the side of the 401 freezing your ass off.
Youth juice. Oh my God. I used to have that when I was 20, but it was in my penis. Youth juice.
Yeah.
Fucking joke. Now I'm old, bold, and full of gold. With that being said, Rick, get on to your next caller. Love the show.
Okay. Have a good night. See you. Okay. Who's on the line now? Who do we have?
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Oh, hello, it's Dom Palm.
Well, hello, Dom Palm.
I have been cooking all day and baking, but I've been in the chat, and my niece is here. I'm baking with my niece, and her name is Pamela, and she's been running most of the chat for me this evening.
Oh.
So I just wanted to say we've had a lot of fun in the chat. We're both in stitches laughing this evening because I'm making Christmas balls to give away as presents.
Well, that's exciting.
And I'm baking them. And we got on the topic of balls. And oh my goodness, what came out in the chat was hilarious. Absolutely. I was in tears. So were some other people. And so I got in a situation, though, because you were talking about Kevin O'Leary, and I was paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked up this thing. I'd done a story relating to this woman, and she was a Hungarian countess, and her name is Elizabeth Báthory, and she had there's a movie about her called The Blood Queen, and it's a true factual incident that happened in the 17th century where she killed thousands of children for their blood, and she terrorized them beforehand. And that's a true story. But anyways, so I was describing that in the chat because someone asked me for the movie link, and I burnt the balls that I was baking, and that caused more laughter, Rick.
Well, whenever a woman's sitting here talking about burning balls, I get very nervous.
I know. I think Sir Leo did too. He tried to stop it right away, but then he went along with it. But DK and Maria and Susie and everybody and the PDS and everybody was so responsive and so hilarious. And I don't know. I think Leo said you go back on the chat lines now. If you need a bit of cheering up, whenever you feel down, Sir Richard, and overworked, go back in the chat tonight.
Okay. All right. I will take that advice and I will do just that.
And all I want to say is thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And we love you so much, and don't give up hope. We're all thinking of you very positively, and you are a real leader, and we all look up to you immensely.
Well, thank you. I'm privileged to have all of you guys around me and to be part of a great community here. So we are truly a family, and I appreciate it very much. Your words are very kind, Pam.
Oh, I have a confession to make.
Okay, careful. This is a family show.
I will. It's a true confession. I feel like I just won a badge of honor last night. I went on another show and I typed in something. Some person called in about wanting a world government, but not the one that's been planned for now. And I said in the chat, does this woman just say she wants a one world government? And they booted me out. So I've been banned from a chat line for saying that. For just asking the question. I know. So, and this platform goes under the guise of, being all about God and freedom, and they even have freedom in the title. And so I just thought, oh, well, now I know what it feels like to get banned. One woman came on and said, "Damn, Pam is a troll."
Okay.
I know. If you can believe that, it was an Australian chat, and I would. But now I have my badge of honor and added burnt balls on top of that. I'm a very happy damn Pam.
Well, damn, Pam.
I know. Don't damn. I burnt my balls, but anyway, I really don't have balls. I mean, they're cookie balls. But we were talking about. You can have snowballs and rum balls. B said add things to the rum balls. Had great suggestions. And then you can have fruit balls. And I think that might have concerned some of the gentlemen. And then I said, and you can have nut balls. And they're all recipes. They're all in my Christmas recipe book.
Do they have a recipe in there for jingle balls or maybe some blue balls?
Actually, jingle balls might have colored little Smarties in them or something like that with Rice Krispies. I'll have to look that one up, but I'm sure there's something in there, a recipe called Jingle Balls. But I'm also going to write a recipe book because I'm tasting everything that I'm doing and I'm writing down the recipes, and I might publish it one day. Yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you once again, my darling, and thank you to all the people in the chat, because they really, really know how to get along well and to make everyone laugh. And sometimes we just need a hell of a lot of laughter, don't we?
We do these days for sure.
We sure do. And on that note, I'll let you get on to your other Maverick family member. And I love you, all of you, so dearly.
Thank you, Pam. A privilege, as always. Thank you for calling in.
Nighty night.
Okay. And that is a night. Maverick night, damn Pam. So, or Dom Pam. Thank you, Pam, for calling in. Stay with me, folks. I'll be right back right after this.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, and did you guys see this story about King Charles? Let me see if I can find it here for you. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, here. I wanted to show you this too. Kevin O'Leary. I don't mean to be picking on Kevin O'Leary so much here tonight, but he just kind of walked into it here today with that vampire thing. And so I've got this thing with Kevin O'Leary as well from a while back where he's talking about the Shark Tank, but this must have been, and it's just ironic that he's dressed up like a vampire after what he said today, and then what we just ran. Tips from the tank, it says here. So here he is. Kevin O'Leary, the Vampire Man.
Let me give you tips for the tank that'll be so important. If you ever get to the Shark Tank, remember these 3 things. Number 1, explain your opportunity in 90 seconds or less. Number 2, explain why you can execute on the idea. Because after all, great ideas are a dime a dozen. Executional skills very hard to find. And number 3, know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers after getting the first 2 right, I'll send you to hell perpetuity.
Oh my. Yeah. So where's the King Charles story that I'm looking for? I had all the notes up here. And oh no, that's the big picture frame again in Dubai. Let's make what are we going to do to attract the tourists? Let's make a giant picture frame. And then when we're done with that, we'll make a replica of the moon that people can sit in and pretend to fly into outer space on. It's like Vegas, man, on steroids, like I said. So come on, King Charles, where'd you go? Easier for me just to go and find it again. Here we go here. So King Charles flies home for emergency talks. Look at this. Not my original story. This one here, coming from. This is from the Express. Aides will. So he's flying home for emergency talks with Prince William over Harry and Meghan. Wow. Aides will gather to create a battle plan on how to counter the potentially damaging fallout from the publication of Endgame. King Charles has flown home to Britain to stage emergency talks with Prince William over how to tackle the royal racism row that has engulfed Buckingham Palace following the publication of the new book by author Omid Scobie. Top aides will gather to create a battle plan on how to counter potentially damaging fallout from the publication of Endgame, which saw two major royals named as having remarked on the potential skin color of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's firstborn, Prince Archie, prior to his birth. The Daily Express has chosen not to name the two royals cited by Scobie after they were named in the first run of Dutch editions of the book, which was released last week. Oh, it's a major crisis. The gathering of the two households will see them discuss how to respond, with officials insisting time and care must be taken before any decisions are made. However, palace sources insist all options remain on the table, including launching legal action against the author, who has previously been branded Meghan's mouthpiece. I don't think she likes the royal family much, honestly. What would be your first clue on that? The Californian-based couple have so far declined to comment on the furor, despite coming under huge pressure to speak out about Scobie's research. King Charles, who flew back to the UK after several days attending the COP28 Environment Summit in Dubai. Of course, what was he doing there? Hanging out with the... Well, the what should I say? Okay, hanging out with the folks. Is understood to be taking public concerns surrounding the book very seriously, and is worried of the damage it could cause to the royal brand worldwide. However, officially senior advisors say the working royal family will this week continue carrying out their duties. I wonder if Prince Charles or King Charles got the youth juice while he was there and then went for a water slide. Or if he went for a visit to the giant picture frame, then sauntered over to the giant fountains. I would imagine if you're the king, you've probably seen all that stuff. It's all so passé. All so passé. What can I say? Except, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight and hanging out with me here on the Maverick News Channel. Thank you, Maverick family. And thank you for all the kind messages that came in yesterday. Yes, I have had some people, applying pressure in various ways to try to get me to quit. And the words of encouragement that came in overnight were, really, they're pretty uplifting. I really appreciate all the kind words and messages of support that came in from so many people. Impossible to respond to everybody, just too many. And I'm truly, truly grateful for each and every one of you and the support that you all provide. And I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Lots of work left to do. Lots of work left to do for sure. We're going to get her back. We'll get her. Working on it every day. Stay positive out there, folks. I'll be back tomorrow night. Probably 6 p.m. I was a little late tonight, but I'll try to be here for 6. Tomorrow night, Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.